Hello, Ravi sir, here in answer. Can we just wait for a couple of minutes for Madhav sir?
Sure, sure.
Great,
Yeah,
great.
sure,
Thank you.
sure.
Thank you. Oh, I think let's start. Madhav sir will join us. Hello everyone. Welcome to the panel discussion by Rest the Case. I'm Advocate Ambuj Tiwari. Today's discussion is all about voting laws, whether it's a safeguard or a barrier to our democracy. As we all know, voting is the heart of democracy, but are our laws helping or holding us back? So let me introduce today's panelists. We have Advocate Ravi Teja Sharma sir, who is a legal consultant with expertise in civil, criminal, and IP law. Along with Ravi Teja sir, we also have Advocate Ninad Deshpande, who is having 18 years of experience in corporate and commercial law. So before we begin the discussion, let me just play an introductory video of Rest the Case.
Rest the Case is a legal aggregator platform. A one-stop solution. A one-stop solution for all services and information. And information. If you have any legal troubles, want a legal service, or need to consult a legal expert, we can help you. If you have any legal troubles, want a legal service, or need to consult a legal expert, we can help you. Need to consult a legal expert, we can help you. Speak with our registered lawyers available in over 200 plus cities. To consult a lawyer, you can sign up or contact us. Click on Find Lawyer and filter lawyers by specialization, location, or even PIN code.
Okay, let's start with today's discussion. As today's discussion is about voting laws, so I would like to ask, the importance of voting. Can we discuss about why is voting seen as the base of a democracy, and in your opinion, what makes a voting process truly democratic? Anyone can initiate the discussion.
Yeah, should I take it?
Yes, yes, with pleasure, sir.
You see, the essence of democracy at the end of the day is ruled by the people, and sovereign participation is achieved only by way of voting, general voting by all concerned in. That is the way in which you see people can participate in the democratic process. So voting is a very, very important and essential aspect of any democracy. It ensures that there is equal participation of all stakeholders in the democratic process. We have seen every form of government in the history of mankind. You had monarchy, you had dictatorships, and at the end of the day, I think there is a general consensus now that even though democracy is not the perfect solution, but it is the best solution to the way in which people need to be governed. And if that is so, then voting is an essential part of this democratic system. Uh, there are there are ways in which it can be improved, but this, in my opinion, is the best solution to the way in which people are to be governed. So that is how I think I open this discussion based on these thoughts.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Truly. Great to initiate the discussion and start today's conversation. I would like to also know about if there's I mean, voting laws in our democracy. So, are there any groups or individuals who generally gain any advantage from a stricter voting regulations? What do you think?
You see, voting at the end of the day, those rights will have to be regulated. I am personally not in favor of us, and I think there is a general consensus also that there cannot be an unregulated voting right as such, because at the end of the day, voting process is meant for the interest of the country which is conducting it. So you will always have a situation where voting rights will be regulated, but you have to see where that line cannot be crossed. For example, in India, your constitution gives you a right to every citizen to vote. There are only three conditions. As per Article 3 to 6, there are only three conditions. You need to be a citizen of India, you need to be of 18 years of age, and you must not be of a person of unsound mind.
Right.
Other than that, unless other than these three conditions, there cannot be any restriction as such on the right to vote.
Okay. Yes.
The, dis- the discussion generally revolves around whether migrants can be allowed to vote, for example, or whether the people who are not citizens of this country can be allowed to vote. There,
True.
I think you have a gray area. But
Exactly. Exactly.
so far as the regulation part is concerned, there will be some minimum portion or part of regulation every time there is a voting right. That right cannot be unrestricted. For example, in the United Kingdom, you have a right for people of Commonwealth countries who can vote in United Kingdom even if they are not citizens of that country, so long as they are resident of United Kingdom and they are paying taxes there.
Right.
I do not think that kind of a right can be given in India at this stage, because United Kingdom comes with a special history, and that there is a special history with Commonwealth also. We don't have the same history. We are living in a very fragile geopolitical circumstances also, where if you keep the unrestricted voting rights, then there may be other security related issues also.
True. 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 Totally. I totally understand that.
It
Any?
some
Yeah.
sometimes it might be also rising to the anti-national things, because the people who are migrated from other countries, and if they are got any right to vote in India. As a India, we know that we are a very huge country with a huge population. So
Right.
if they also get any type of voting right at that circumstances, if any, if it might be any political pressure or any unconstitutional things. At the time, that may rose into the anti-national things like any attacks on the political leaders and uh, any other things which may harm to the country. So it will be very good that only the citizens of India who resides in India since a long time, and those who are registered as a citizens and as per the RPA Act, that is Representation of People Act, which will follow the fair and free elections, balancing security, accessibility for every eligible voters.
Yes. Uh, Fair enough. We also have Advocate Madhav Shankar, who is having 7 years in advisory and dispute resolution. We welcome you, Advocate Madhav Shankar.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Good evening,
Yes.
Mr. Deshpande. Good evening, Mr. Sharma.
Yes, we
Good
were
evening,
just
good evening.
about the importance of voting laws in India. So let's come to another question, starting with you, Advocate Madhav Shankar. How do voting laws help keep elections fair and trustworthy? Do we have a certain rules to protect the elections?
Right, right. So when you talk about rules that protect the fairness of elections, the first thing obviously that comes to mind is the model code of conduct. Now, the model code of conduct is a very interesting thing because technically it is not statutory law, right? Technically, it is not something that is created by the parliament. Yet, for the violation of model code of conduct, for example, if there is some booth capturing, right? In certain states, we see that during state elections or during some, panchayat or municipal elections, there is some booth capturing. So the chief electoral officer of the district, the chief election officer of the district or the election commission has the power to take cognizance of that breach of model code of conduct and take action. And what are these actions? These actions are provided under the powers of the election commission. For example, election commission can order re-election in a particular constituency if there is a grave and serious violation of the model code of conduct. So that is one example. Another example that we see, that recently in the past few years the Supreme Court gave a decision, and the Supreme Court upheld the rules that whoever wants to contest the election has to disclose their assets, has to disclose the amount of property that they hold, right? So
Right.
this ensures that only good elements are able to
Right.
come into politics, right? And money and power, money power is not misused to
Correct.
influence the elections in a way.
Correct. Correct. I think that was one of the important moves recently we have seen. That's I mean great to know about that. Moving forward, are there any examples?
And
Okay, yeah,
yeah,
sure.
and one more thing, as the now sir said that misuse of money in the elections. Sir, do we think that there is no use of money is going on? Because in every election, the money is distributed to the voters to vote them. Do we think that are the fair elections that's going on in such a huge democratic country, which is, as our India is known as very good democratic country? And in recent elections also, we have seen that there are so many twists that we never expected. Uh, like many of the people says that they have misused the EVMs and they have hacked it. And do we think that Chief Electoral Commission is taking any measuring steps regarding that? And Supreme Court has the full authority that if anything is going on, it can be taken into judicial review.
Right, right. So yes, I mean, Mr. Sharma, I totally agree with you on this. We all know the ground reality. There are laws and there are rules and regulations, but we are all citizens of this country. We have all voted in different elections, so we know the ground reality of the country. And I would like to say that if you look at it from the perspective of the judiciary, right? Recently, we had the electoral bond decision by the Supreme Court,
Right.
where the Supreme Court held that the electoral bonds were in fact not valid, right? And Supreme Court invalidated that scheme. So I feel that there is always this tussle going on. There is always this tug of war
Right.
between the representatives on one hand and the judiciary and the electoral bodies on the other hand. Right now, of course, there is also use of money. There is distribution of cash. There is distribution of several items to the voters in a lot of elections.
Yes.
And yes,
And
certainly,
one
yeah,
more thing I want to add on when you said the distribution of things. In the Warangal district in Telangana, recently in the 2024 election, 2023 elections, there was a MLA. I don't know his name. I can't disclose it also.
Okay.
That guy after winning the elections, he has distributed a gram of gold to the each and every house. Is
right,
this thing do you think that is this fair free elections that going on in our democratic country? And I
right.
don't think for these type of candidates, these type of representatives, the strict actions should be taken against them.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with you, Mr. Sharma. And so obviously there is a tussle between the representatives on one hand and the judiciary and the the election commission or the electoral machinery on the other hand. But I like to remain an optimist in this sense. I am an optimist, and I'll tell you why. Because out of maybe 100 instances of bribery, 100 instances of booth capturing, right? There is perhaps, now also I'm speaking out of experience, I'm speaking out of observation, the statistics may be different, but what I feel is that in a lot of matters, there is in fact re-election. In fact, so I'm from Rajasthan, and recently there were by-elections in Rajasthan. And what happens is that when there is a politician, or when there is an MLA standing for elections, and they indulge in corrupt activities, or they indulge in this kind of distribution of freebies and all before the election. So I have myself seen the election commission officers take charge of the matter, and then election commission recommending re-election, right? So obviously I agree with you that there are a lot of instances where the fairness of elections is in doubt, right?
Right.
And there is a need of checks and balances. But this system of election commission, I'm not saying it's the best, but it is what we have right now, and it
Right.
kind of tries to ensure those free and fair elections.
No, I would like to add on this. See,
Yes,
if you
yes.
look at this holistically, the Election Commission of India has done a remarkable job. We are the only country in the world where more than 100 crore people cast their votes in the election. It is unbelievable. The task is humongous. No country has achieved.
True.
By and large, we have through free and fair. And malpractice is also undergoing. If you see the newspapers in the 90s, there were mass cases of booth capturing, terrorizing voters, fake, bogus voting. Now we have also evolved as the elections, the introduction of voter IDs, your voting machines. These things have gone down. Now the nature of malpractices is, giving kind of bribes or some benefits to the voters or some freebies to the voters. You will see that those kind of cases more these days as compared to booth capturing. As far as most of the states are concerned, booth capturing rarely happens.
Just to
Might
intervene,
be happening
you're
in cases. Sorry.
just to intervene, sorry to intervene. Your voice is breaking a lot.
Am I
The last
audible
part we actually
now?
missed. It's the same.
I,
Is it the same with Madhav and Ravi sir as well? Are you able to
Yeah,
hear?
yeah, yeah. No, actually, there is some glitch in the voice when we are receiving it.
Yeah, it's breaking a lot. If you
okay,
want, you can rejoin. That
is it
might
better
work.
now? Yeah. Is it better now?
No, sir, it's the same. I request you to rejoin. I think that might work.
I'll read.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Let's move to the next question till the time sir comes. So how do you think how important it is to show ID when you vote? Does it make elections more secure, or does it create more obstacles? Because before you can answer this, because there is a myth, if I'm not going for voting, uh, so there's a myth that people actually, people from the parties, they vote on your behalf and you have no idea. Sometimes even if you are taking your ID, the officials present at the booth, they say that it has already been done. So how important it is to have an ID, to show ID? Is it helping to get fair elections?
Yes, but as per the electronic the elections ID should be also be modified, because
Right.
as the other cards like which are getting modified right now, barcode system, etc. So I think that election commission should take one more forward step, as it has been updated from the ballot voting to the EVM votings. So in the
Right.
same circumstances, it should also take an advancement step that until and unless there is a scan by the returning officer in the uh, booth place,
Right.
the it should not be voted. The person who will be receiving the election card, there should be a barcode and it should be scanned.
Right.
Although it takes it consumes some time, but it is a very secure thing that there will be no fake votes, no malpractice will be done at that times. Because nowadays, as the technology increases, we know that there will be the lot of circumstances that we are going to face a lot of problems. So, but at any cost, it will be somewhat better. At least we can stop 10 to 20% of fake votes.
Right, right. Fair enough. Good point that maybe we need to use modern technology more to get fair elections. Any opinion, Advocate Madhav?
Yes, certainly I agree. I totally agree with what Mr. Sharma has said. I just have one thing to add to it.
Okay.
What the election commission can do is perhaps make some kind of a scheme or conduct some kind of an experiment in attaching these biometrics with a blockchain system, right? So
Right.
as we all know that blockchain is a technology that keeps a singular digital ledger of a
Right.
particular transaction, right?
Correct.
And there is a lot of talk these days going on about smart contracts and how blockchain can actually create a ledger that is non-duplicable and is also secure because it does not exist on any central server. It does not exist on any centralized location, but it's distributed across the network. So if the election commission or the government, or maybe a small a state election commission can start with it and create a regulatory sort of sandbox to try
Right.
out these kind of technologies, it can certainly improve the problem of fake votes.
Great. Actually, great point. Uh, okay. So now moving forward to the voting access part. So what do you think? What's the difference between protecting voting security and suppressing votes? How can we tell whether it's a good part or a bad part? I think Ninad, Advocate Ninad, you can try. You can share your thoughts. I think you are on mute, Ninad. We are not able to. Are you guys able to hear Advocate Ninad?
No, no, no.
No.
Okay. Uh, okay. Advocate Ravi, can you share some thoughts on this?
Yeah, as per Section 19 of RPA, voters must strict residency requirements to register in a constituency, like migrant workers or any people. A sufficient portion of India population often find to difficult maintain consistency residency. So the documentation should be perfect at the time of voting.
Okay, understood. And Advocate Madhav, you want to add?
Right. I think Advocate Sharma raised a very important point about migrant workers, and I would like to again add on to it and
Mhm.
talk about migrant workers, but also NRIs. Right. So there has been a lot of talk regarding giving voting opportunities to NRIs and giving voting opportunities to Indian citizens. So
Yeah.
Indians who hold Indian passport, but they don't actually live in India. Right
Right.
now, under the current system, we have a mechanism whereby now the soldiers who are serving on the borders and soldiers who are serving away from their constituency can are provided a facility of postal voting.
Right.
Now, the thing is, we are living in 2024. We have the UPI payment system, all the banking system is online,
Right.
the financial system has gone online. And what is surprising is that the voting system,
Yeah.
for good, for better, or for worse, I'm not making a judgment call on this right now because, the technology may not be available. But
Right.
as and when the technology becomes available, it would be a great it would be a great service to democracy itself to take this system of voting in a digital sphere, which would also allow the migrant workers, first of all, to vote within the country itself. So for example, if there is a worker from Bihar and he's working as a construction worker in Mumbai,
Right.
it would be nearly impossible for that person to go back to Bihar just to vote.
Exactly. Exactly.
But if this system is, there is, I'm not saying take the whole system online, right? But maybe they can start step by step,
True.
by experimenting with one constituency, or couple of constituencies, or maybe experimenting with some form of NRI voting first. So that is my suggestion regarding this.
Okay. Okay.
And
Understood. Great. Great. Yes.
as the Madhav said, so it is also the main thing that every time that the person who is residing out of the state and the elections are conducting in his proper state, then there should be an simple thing that if he is staying outside the state, and there should be available, because every time traveling from one place to another place, and nowadays MNCs are not even giving leaves for them,
Right.
as the right to vote is very mandatory and it is a constitutional right for each and every citizen of India.
Right. It's true. I think the outcome of till now is that technology needs to be adopted on a heavy basis to get it fair and easy for all the citizens. That's great. Now, can we move to, I mean, knowing the difference between, sorry, I mean, the difference between protecting voting security and suppressing voting. So while protecting the votes and while having a security to get the votes proper, are we somewhere suppressing the votes?
Yeah, I would like to weigh in on this.
Yes.
So obviously there are several reports. Sometimes during the general elections, we saw reports from states like Bengal. We saw reports from states like Assam
Right.
that certain central security forces were not allowing villagers to vote. Right. The thing is that a lot of these things exist in the realm of this gray area of facts. The security forces like to say that these are just rumors. There may be certain political motivations of people making these allegations. What happens is that, especially when you look at states like Bengal and Assam, there are certain parties in those particular states which have created such terror that the regular people are not able to go out and vote, right?
Exactly.
There are certain, in fact, there are certain parties that are governing certain states,
Right.
which have created an environment of fear,
Hmm.
and under that environment of fear, the local people are not able to voice their concerns, right? Instead, what happens is that the party goons and the party members take over the polling, right? So again, in this, it is very difficult to say that security forces are the ones suppressing the votes, because general elections happened. There are elections going on in Maharashtra. There are
Right.
by-elections going on in so many other states right now,
Right.
and we don't hear these kind of rumors. We don't hear these kind of incidents from anywhere except for the
Certain
one
states.
or two states that are infamous for violence being created by the ruling party. So I don't really know what to make of it.
Do you have any thoughts, Advocate Ninad, on this?
No, yeah, I agree that this actually goes into a kind of a political controversy and gray area of facts as to what has actually happened on ground. As my friend, rightly pointed out, that these instances typically happen in select few states, and one need to ask why it happens in these states only. And therefore, you ultimately you need, why is these central security forces are deployed there in these particular states? It's not deployed in other states. For example, if you see Maharashtra, Gujarat, Rajasthan, these central forces are never deployed there. They
Right.
are deployed in particular states because there is a history of violence there.
Right.
And the right to vote, if I may so, has been restricted or has been trampled upon by political parties in those states, where they are terrorizing the voters not to vote against them.
Right.
So as a matter of fact, you need security forces to ensure that people go to the booth and cast their votes.
Right.
So we are looking at a different situation in these select states. I am not of the view that because you have security forces deployed in certain areas, it is some way taking away the right of voters to vote. I mean, take for example the elections in Jammu and Kashmir last week.
Hmm.
These were held successfully. I mean, entire world acclaimed it. The manner in which these elections were held, the turnout, and the manner in which results were declared, everything happened peacefully. The transition of power also happened peacefully.
Right.
So you need adequate security measures for elections, and the common voter at times is at the mercy of muscle powers exercised by political parties, and for that you need the security forces to protect them.
Right.
So, as the Ninad sir said, that which is happening in the peaceful elections in the Jammu and Kashmir, then why won't it happen in the West Bengal? For example, as after the revocation of 370, many of the people of other states said that Jammu Kashmir won't be as long as it could be part of India. It will be separated, etc. Where in that places, in that circumstances, the forces can handle the situations. Then why they are compromising themselves in the when it comes to the matter of Bengal? Do we also think that it is a little partiality, that it is a little pressure is built up on the forces by the ruling parties who are ruling since long time, and the people literally they are not even trying to vote it, because whenever actually when the election court starts, there will be the no party rulings. The people's the representatives of the government officials or any other peoples will be transferred from one place to another place, but still the same things are happening. Is this the way that we are staying in the democratic country? When the whole other 28 states are following the exact democracy, then what's wrong with this? It is like strictly violation of the laws. The judiciary should step into it and take any severe actions against these type of violences which are causing before the elections and making the people not to vote against it.
That's a very, I think, debating issue which Advocate Ravi has spoken about. What do you think, Advocate Madhav, on that?
I kind of agree with Mr. Sharma. See, what happens is that um, there are certain political parties in our country that, um, or rather, I would say, not even political parties, there are certain politicians in our country that, and I would say not certain politicians, it is the nature of politicians to put their own
True.
interests, before the interests of the people. And it is such a paradox, because if they stop doing that, then they would not remain politicians anymore.
Right.
So when we talk about the conduct of politicians, we have to start with the assumption that they will try to twist the law and they will try to bend the law. Because if they did not have these tendencies, then they would not be politicians at all.
True.
Uh, as far as the law is concerned, and the application of law on the situation on ground is concerned, this is something that again the judiciary has to take up with the utmost priority. uh, and in several instances where violence has been reported and where there is a history of violence, the judiciary does uphold election petitions. Election petitions are filed in high court. I remember that a while ago, I think it was around the time of general elections itself, that there was a whole bunch of election petitions in the Guwahati High Court. There was a
Right.
whole bunch of election petitions in certain other, states. And as far as the higher judiciary is concerned, when it comes to dealing with election petitions, I feel that the outlook of the judiciary, at least, is that of a little bit higher urgency.
Right.
So when you look at listing of election petitions, for example, if XYZ person files an election petition in the High Court, say High Court of Rajasthan or High Court of Delhi or whatever, uh, the listing and the hearing of election petitions, in my experience, in my observation, is usually done on an urgent basis.
Right.
uh, I would say that even the urgency, you could equate it to something like a bail application in the High Court. So as far as the outlook of judiciary is concerned while disposing these election petitions and deciding on election matters, I do believe that yes, the judiciary does give importance to them.
Yeah.
And as far as my expertise and my experience is concerned as a lawyer, of course I can't comment on the conduct of politicians or security forces because I have had very limited experience in that matter. But as far as the judiciary is concerned, yes, definitely the judiciary does indeed have a proactive outlook.
Right. Right. Great.
And you see, on this point, it's not just about the judiciary. You have to ask, do we have the legal mechanism to address this kind of situations that we are talking about? My answer is yes, we do have the legal mechanism. The question is whether there is political will to act upon and use those legal provisions to safeguard the interest of voters. For example, if the law and order is a state subject at the end of the day, if in a particular state the state government is unable to hold a free and fair election, does not the central government have the power to intervene and at times impose a precedent's rule also and ensure that free and fair elections are undertaken? I think use of Article 356 has been, it has been misused only in our country. Never has it been used in a fair and free manner, and it could have been useful. And actually, there were circumstances like these where the use of that article was necessary, but the politicians have failed us. So my take on this is that we have the adequate legal mechanism. The question is the persons enforcing this legal mechanism do not have the will to use
Right.
these legal provisions.
Great. Great. You answered it greatly and on point, I would say. So let's move to our, conversation. Since we were talking about creating a technology which would help citizens to vote online, so of course it will be accessible, it will be easy, but I'm sure it might create new problems. How are we going to balance it basically? So since Advocate Madhav specializes in technology, so I would like to start with Advocate Madhav.
Right. So, there is a saying when we talk about IT, when we talk about technology, there is this meme, or rather, there is this joke that the tech enthusiast will have everything digital, mobile phone, house will be a smart house, and the car will be remotely operable and everything. But the engineer or the cyber security expert who knows the risks, they will actually have a physical padlock, and even they will not drive a car which has a remote lock, and they will not have any UPI and all. So this
Right.
is the problem with technology. The problem with technology is that when we talk about elections and when we talk about something as huge as Indian elections, where you have
Yes.
so many crores of voters,
Right.
uh, the problem is that the current system, the current system of voting that exists has been evolved over decades. In
Right.
fact, the latest tech related addition has been the EVMs, and it's been decades. It's been more than 10 years or several decades since EVMs have been in use, and yet there is a lot of controversy about EVMs. So the
Right.
first problem that we that the biggest problem, in fact, about use of technology is the legitimacy.
Right.
Because when we talk about something like elections, the essential question is that whether people trust the outcome
Right.
of that election or not. And if the technology is not something that people are open to, and it is not the fault of the people, it is
Right.
the process of adaptation of technology. You must remember when UPI first came out, when Uber first came. So Uber started becoming popular in 2013, 2014. Even back then there were companies like Meru cabs and all, and physical cabs that you would call and they would come to your house.
Correct.
So even technologies like UPI, Zomato, Uber, these kind of apps, they became popular only in COVID.
Right.
So this phenomena of tech is very, very recent. And the problem with use of technology in elections is that it may harm the legitimacy of the elections.
Right. Right.
The first problem, biggest problem. The second problem is, how do you train the people? Right. So right now, if you go see how elections happen, it is the government school teachers, the government office workers and all who have election duty, right? They
Right.
are the ones who are working in the election duty during the elections. With EVMs, it's very simple. EVM is just a box. You click on it. Once the
Yes.
election is done, you lock it, you put the seal on it, and it goes away.
Right.
The problem with the digital thing is that how do you train the staff, the people who are going to be working at the election booth, at the election duty? It is a mammoth task.
True.
And so you have to do a cost benefit analysis, unless and until there's this saying, that don't repair what's not broken. So if
Right.
something is going correctly, if something is going smoothly, don't over engineer it. Otherwise you may end up spoiling it. So
True.
the second biggest problem with the use of digital in election is the training aspect, and the first is the legitimacy of the or the trust that people will have on technology.
Right. Right. So, you have any thoughts on this, Advocate Ravi?
Yeah, actually, as Mr. Madhav said, that there are so many cons and regarding the technology that yes, because before as that before the UPI we were used to have the cash, etc. And after that UPI, we are nobody is carrying the cash. Okay, so as it is, after the coming into the but introduction of UPI was also became a so much big hurdle for everyone, because uh, hacking was going on and lot of money was deducting. As usually, if the it is not safe also, if you are if you are making the elections as digitalized, because the government duty people, those who are going in that, they are not well trained, as it is, as he said, as the Mr. Madhav said. And it's if we make them train also, it will be like a new thing that we are teaching them. And at that age, the people those who are at 45, 50, it is not that much easy to make them to teach these new things, because they are not that much adaptive to the technology that we our generations, like those who are like below 35, 40, they are adaptive, because they are somewhat interested in that. They know how to use the technology. But and when it comes to the village, like rural areas, it is not that much easy to make them as a mobilization and all these type of things, new introductory things. After so many years now, within after COVID, like 20 after 2020, within past 2 to 3 years itself, the rural areas also been adapted to the UPI technology. So
Right.
if we make it also in the digitalization elections, and it may takes almost a 2 decades to come into the rural development in the rural areas also. And
Right.
that will be the somewhat like more injurious, which may cost the lot of again it will leads to the different again hacking systems. And if the ruling party, if any other party wins, then other parties will says that they have done the hack, etc., etc. Still now we are facing a lot of controversies when the EVMs also got introduced. And it's not easy that we can bait the other circumstances which are not we are expecting it.
Okay. Okay. Uh, Rightly mentioned. Ninad, Advocate Ninad, do you have any thoughts on this?
Well, I look at it this way, whether bringing in these technological advancement, whether digital voting can improve the efficiency of our election process, the answer is yes. Whether it is feasible in today's era, answer perhaps is no. The challenges are more technological as compared to any other thing, because you, as the panelists have rightly pointed out, you have issues regarding electronic voting machine itself, which are actually not even connected to internet, and people say that they are hacked at times.
Hmm.
Here, if you are going to have digital voting, the entire data will be in the on the internet. And I am not a technically advanced, I don't have a technical knowledge, but anyone can tell you
Right.
that anything that is there on the internet is susceptible to being hacked.
Right.
So the issue is, how can that process be made foolproof?
Right.
And that answer lies in a technological solution.
Hmm.
To me, I think the good starting point will be to link your voting right with the biometrics.
Right.
I think, and based on that, then they can further technological advances can be built upon.
Okay. Okay. Understood. Right. So now I think I would like to discuss on the legal protections we have for voting rights. So generally, it is said and it's on paper that everyone has an equal right to vote. But are these enough to protect their rights just by saying and just by having it on paper that everyone has an equal right? Do we need anything extra to protect, to actually give those rights so that citizens can practice it? Uh, Advocate.
As of now, that we each and every state is following the right means equal writing.
Hmm.
So now, till now, it is not much necessary that we need any other things that which are to be having more than the equal rights. Nowadays, nobody is means making any discrimination that this person belongs to the SC or ST and minority. It's not going on like that in even in the everywhere in the every polling booths that there is no discrimination. They are casting their votes very freely,
Hmm.
and perhaps it's not that much necessary that we should bring any new adaptations or new laws regarding that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Uh, Advocate Madhav, I think you might have different thoughts on this.
No, I agree. By and large, I agree. But I have a different perspective, and I want to talk about a little bit, something that is different. Till now, the discussion has been from the perspective of the voters,
Right.
but we also have to look at it from the perspective of the candidates, the
Right.
people who are standing up for the election.
Correct.
Right now, currently, the system in our country is unfortunately so terrible that
Hmm.
unless and until you are the son or daughter of a politician, or you're married into the family of a big businessman or politician, it is almost impossible for
Right.
a youngster, or let alone youngster, even for a person who is not very well established and has a lot of surplus money, to fight elections,
Right.
no matter how good your intentions are. And the system is unfortunately so distorted that even if you do enter politics with good intentions,
Hmm.
in order to sort of run your party, in order to run your office, and in order to sort of play the game,
Hmm.
you do end up using means that are not proper. And what is the reason for that? We have to ask. And the reason for that is that there is no formal channel of election funding in India.
Right.
Now, with the BJP, there was an attempt. I don't comment on the correctness or incorrectness of electoral bonds,
Right.
but the party at least tried, or the government, the parliament at least tried to bring in a system. Right now, the Supreme Court, in its great wisdom, has declared that the electoral bonds are not correct, and that's totally fine, right? Uh, the discussion on electoral bonds is a long discussion. But
Right.
my point is that there has to be a system whereby there needs to be a formal and a clean channel of funding
Right.
Uh, and unless and until there is a clean channel of funding, unless and until there is a stream of money which is coming into electoral politics, it will always remain bankrupt. And
Right.
bankrupt is the correct word to use for the current electoral system and the political system of India. And it
True.
is bankrupt both morally, and it is also bankrupt financially. Because
Right.
essentially, why do you have corruption? Everyone knows the sad reality is that the traffic cop standing on the street, from that person till the highest person in the government structure, is a
Right.
beneficiary of a certain cut, right? Contractors, politicians, what have you. But they are not doing it because they are inherently bad people. They are not doing it because they're inherently corrupt. They are doing it because they also need to survive in a system that makes them do it.
Right.
So the real discussion needs to be around the issue of funding politics in a clean manner.
Right. Right. Uh, so let's we have talked about past, we have talked about current. So let's have a discussion on the future of voting laws. I mean, we can see down the line, maybe 10 years or 15 years. So what changes you think would be there in voting laws to make it more fair and secure? Should we have the same voting rules everywhere in the country, or does it depend, or should it depend on the state?
Yeah. So I think voter apathy is the biggest problem that we are facing right now in our democracy.
Right.
And to address that problem, I think it's high time we now should think on the lines of updating our laws and making voting compulsory. You have certain jurisdictions where voting is compulsory and there are fines if without any reasonable cause you are unable to vote. I see no reason why it can't be brought in India. This will address the issue of voter apathy and also fake voting that goes on. Connected to this, I think we also need to introduce proxy voting.
Right.
So you need to have foolproof mechanism for it, but proxy voting is exercised in your corporate votings. For example, in shareholder meetings, you have the right to vote as a proxy for someone if you have the adequate authorization from that person. If that is given, I think the voting percentages will improve. And thirdly, at some point in time, I think the root cause of these issues that we see, that voters are being bribed, they vote on ethnic or caste lines, etc. I think there is a need for voter education also.
Right.
There is a mass of uneducated people who vote on absolutely irrational grounds in India.
Right.
At some point in time, we have to consider bringing in programs for voter education. There has to be at least basic knowledge of Indian civics. What are these political parties? What are their programs? What are they proposing? What are the country stand? Where does the country stand in global scenario, etc. And for that, just as you have certain examinations, for example, for a driving license after the age of 18, at some point in time, not today, but at some point in time, we will have to think of a certain kind of a test or examination for you to be able to vote
Right.
in an election. Because unless you have the minimum understanding of the issues involved, you are actually harming the democracy rather than contributing to it. So
Right.
broadly, these are the three things that I would think of as an improvement in the laws in the future.
No, no, greatly categorized. Any thoughts on this, Advocate Mada?
Right. I would like to add on a couple of points to what Mr. Deshpande said.
Right.
Um, what we also need to do is ensure accountability at the electoral level, and also to give certain more financial powers and financial responsibility to the local governing bodies. And I say this because if you look outside the tier 1 cities, we there are a lot of civic issues that are outside the purview of the state government. So when we talk about elections, we invariably end up talking about the legislative assembly elections and the general elections for the parliament. However, a lot of civic issues and the issues that affect our lives daily are rooted in the municipal governance or the lack of it. In the recent times, we saw that there was even a slight amount of rain brings flooding in cities like Gurgaon. There is the air quality in India is terrible, which affects the
Right.
health of everyone who lives in India. In
Right.
Chennai, we saw floods, and we usually see that civic issues and issues like allocation of land to builders and unscientific construction in cities. In Bangalore, we see that the condition of the lakes in Bangalore, which used to be very beautiful at one point of time, is terrible
Right.
now. And
Yes.
as per me, a lot of that is the result of overlooking municipal elections and overlooking the financial powers, and the financial responsibility given to the position of mayor and the municipal councillor. So I really hope that going forward in the future, in the next 5 to 10 years, municipal governance and municipal elections and panchayat elections are something that get more attention.
Right, right. Well, I mean, after you gave example of Bangalore, I think it's very clear what needs to be done and in what manner it needs to be done. So, I mean, it was great to have a word on this. Advocate Ravi Teja, you have any thoughts on this? How the
Yeah.
future look like?
I would like to add on with Mr. Deshpande, as he said that we should the every voter should have minimum education, and he said that there should be a test or any assessment type before they are attaining their voter IDs. Yes, because I want to give a small example from my perspective as I faced. When my technical ground friends, like technical educated friends, like those who are from engineering and etc., they really don't know that why they are voting and for what they are voting. Just they are coming and just they are voting, and many of the people they don't know to whom to vote. They are just pressing the nota button and they are coming out.
Yeah,
When they don't have the real education, yes, everybody should know from the 8th or 10th standard itself. The student should know about the voting education, that in future what are the elections are, what they meant for, how our casting of vote changes to what we changes our future, and what will be the development that we can see in our society. What are the pros and what are the cons from the present government, and what are the next government is preparing, and what are their manifestos. Each and every citizen should have the knowledge to identify that what the manifesto is meant for, what they are planning. By taking that manifestos, and by taking that previous achievements or previous works that they have done in the development of the state, considering that, they have to analyze that to whom to vote, to not to whom not, to who is ready, who is good for the state, and who is not fit for the government right now. So that type of education should be come into the education policies, like recently that NEP 2020. Uh, in that, it should be included that voting rights should, what are the voting rights and what are the voting education. Everything should be included in that from the childhood itself, so that they will be having good general awareness regarding their voting systems.
right, right, right. So now I think the best part comes where we as a citizen, and especially you from a legal perspective, how can we encourage young people to vote even if they're facing any sort of barriers? How should we encourage them?
So
No, you-
yeah, please go ahead.
Yes.
no, you can go ahead, please.
So I was saying that number one, yes, I agree with the advocate Deshpande here that it should be made compulsory, because unless and until there is a detriment, and unless and until there is a negative incentive to get out of your comfort zone and get out and go and actually vote. Very few uh, younger and younger people are, they're unlikely to do it. And the
Right.
reason for that is that more and more we experience our lives not through the lens of reality, but through the lens of social media. And unless and until the government, the state as a whole takes an initiative to, number one, disincentivize apathy, voter apathy, by making it compulsory, and also to run programs on social media by making people politically aware of their prerogatives and of their rights and duties as well. Younger voters are less and less likely to do it. So, for example, during the last general election, there was a big effort by the election commission to try to do this. However, I think there's a scope for a lot more improvement.
Right. Anything you like to add, Advocate Nath?
Yes, I think the chief cause of young voters not being interested in voting is that they have been taught from several quarters that their vote doesn't make any difference.
Right. Absolutely.
And that is not true. And therefore, then we come back to the whole issue of voter education, that
Right.
this is the point at which you can make an impact through your democratic rights. They've been taught that each political party is same, it doesn't make a difference whosoever comes to
Yes.
power, but that is again untrue. Any serious student of political science will tell you that if a party A comes to power, it will have a significant impact on the lives of certain set of people as compared to party B,
Right.
because they have different policies on economic issues, they have different policies on other issues.
Right.
Many young people complain that roads are not good, but then you voted for a political party which opted for freebies. They spend that
Right.
entire money granting freebies, and now you cannot complain that roads are not there. They don't have the money to build roads.
Right. Absolutely.
So somewhere that education has to go, and somebody needs to teach that. There has to be a program. That is what I was alluding to
Yeah.
earlier. And unless this kind of education is there, the young voter is going to be even more, allergic to political class in general.
Right. Advocate Ravi.
Yeah, as Mr. Deshpande said that we should not complain about the parties. Yes, that nowadays youngsters should think that if the party A is coming, then what type of government jobs they are releasing? Because in most of the states in the south region, the political parties which are ruling, they are restoring their jobs in themselves itself. Means like recommendation, if he's passing in that test or not, group A, group B. But they are not getting the people, those who are from the backward area, they are not getting the jobs. Jobs are
Mm.
getting only for the people, those who are having a lot of money and those who are having businessman, or else for the people those who are not eligible also, they are getting that ranks.
Right.
And youth, youngsters, those who are preparing since long time for the group A, group B or UPSC, and they are stating that we are not getting jobs, and what we can do with the political parties. Yes, in these circumstances the political parties plays a crucial role. The people, when you are thinking about that all these things, and the people, the political party which is offering the freebies like free rice or free buses, they should not vote them actually, because when the people will be addicting to the free things, they don't even know the what the value of hard work is.
True.
At that time the person should know that why we should not accept the free things. Until and unless he knows the value of the hard work, he don't even he's sitting and he's traveling in the free bus, he's traveling for the free rices, then what is the use? Yeah, you have to think that which political party is making us to develop ourselves by any schemes or any government jobs which are fair conduction of the exams. Until and unless this they learn, they can't be, they are not supposed to complain about the parties.
Right, right, right.
There's one aspect I wanted to highlight here. In the
Yes,
UK, they have an act called Future Generations Act or something of that sort. Basically, that act tries to gauge an impact of policy on future generations.
right.
So, in my opinion, that is a very good legislative measure, and it is high time that is brought in India also, where
True.
each and every policy decision, like granting freebies, what is the impact that it is going to have on future generations? If today thousands of crores are to be spent in freebies for winning elections, that action has to meet the test of time, whether it will be in the interest of future generations. The
True.
moment we have that kind of a law, every policy decision will be subject to legal scrutiny, and then I think we will have positive impact on the many of these issues that we are talking about.
Right, right. I think it was a fruitful conversation on how our laws are and how it can be improved. Let's move to the audience questions. I think we have some certain questions. First one is, I would like to know on Mr. Nitin's question. How do voting laws ensure that elections are safe and trustworthy? Anyone can.
So you have an independent election commission of India, which is incorporated under the Constitution of India itself.
Hmm.
That is the commission that overlooks the conduct of elections under our law. Then you have the Representation of People's Act, which deals with the mechanism for conducting these elections. The elections are conducted by the Election Commission of India, so no government or a political party has a control over the implementation of election programs in India.
Right.
That is the mechanism through which it is ensured that the elections are, at least it is hoped that elections are conducted in a free and fair and impartial manner.
Right. Great. The next question is from Mr. Tejas. Sir, can you give examples where voting rights have improved the outcomes of election? Can you share some thoughts on this, Mr. Advocate Tej, Ravi Teja?
Yeah. So the question is that where the voting rights have been improved. Yes, because nowadays, in before times, in the old age times, like decades ago, there was no people knows that what the voting is. So many of the people don't have the voter IDs. Now, in the out of 140 crore people, at least 138 crore people, they are having the voting rights. Now each and every
Right.
person has their own point of view to choose their own representatives who is fit for the government. So after issuing the election commission has made so many surveys to get the people the voter IDs, and they are ready eligible to vote in their elections, free and fair elections, so that they can choose their own representatives who is fit for their area. So after long time, after nowadays, after 2014, now it became very it has a massive change that each and every people is voting. And in previous days there was 30%, 20% of voting was used to be there. Nowadays it is crossing at least 50, 60% is crossing right now. So after issuing a lot of after the hard work of the election commission as well as the governments, so now it became very easy, and the elections are going very fairly also. So most of the people have their own rights now.
Great, great. And I think this would be a last question of this discussion from Mr. Ashish. What changes would you make to improve voting laws and ensure that everyone can vote fairly and securely? Advocate Madhav.
Right. So when we talk about voting laws,
Yes.
there is a Representation of People Act of 1950 and there is a Representation of People Act of 1951.
Okay.
One deals with the structure of the elections in our country and the democratic structure as such, and the other deals with the conduct of these elections. Uh, what the problem right now is that the Model Code of Conduct does not really have a statutory backing, which means that it does not have the force of law. Uh, Further, for any violation of any election laws, you can approach the High Court only through the manner of an election petition. Uh, and an election petition can be filed by any voter from that particular constituency. So if you feel that the voting has not happened correctly, or if you feel that there has been any problem with the electoral process, you can file an election petition. The issue is that right to vote and the right to elect your representative in a representative democracy is a constitutional right. However, it's not a fundamental right. Uh, I don't know if it should be a fundamental right now, with the current state of affairs, with the current as Advocate Deshpande said, we're in a tough geopolitical spot right now.
Right.
What could be done is that perhaps there could be some regulatory backing to the Model Code of Conduct.
Right.
What could also be done is that the appointment and the nomination of the election commissioners, and the chief election commissioner could be made more, I would say, transparent, could be made more in line with the ideas of democracy. Right, as of now, the way the election commissioners and the chief election commissioner are appointed is, there's the PM, there's the leader of opposition.
Right.
There could be an element of, there could be some scrutiny by some form of a parliamentary committee on it. That would be my recommendation. And certainly what we need is a model code of conduct that has more serious repercussions for its breach and for its violation.
Okay. Understood. We had a great discussion, and the best outcome I can see is that the involvement of technology is really really required, and the compulsory education which we were discussing, why youth should not feel that my vote is not going to impact at all. So thank you for being a part of this vital discussion on voting laws, whether it's a safeguard or barriers to democracy. As we have seen, voting laws have profound impact on shaping our democracy while they aim to ensure fairness. And I think while having a compulsory education, it is also important to for the youth to know how to read manifesto and what the impact it's going to create. So it was great having you all. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Thank
Thank you.
you, my
Yeah,
panelists.
thank you for also providing us a good opportunity to hear for discussing a very important topic of our nation.
Pleasure is ours. The pleasure is ours. Thank you so much.